Hello and welcome to Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, a host, and you are listening to a brand new episode of a podcast where I, Max Booth, a host, takes a guest. We pick a topic somehow related to the whole genre, and we talk about it. We have a conversation. On today's episode, I am talking with my good pal, John Baltisberger, about his new book, Blood and Mud. And the topic of this conversation, which ties into Blood and Mud, is golems. So if you ever want to listen to some cool facts about golems, well, hey, you came to the right fucking podcast, pal. Welcome. Enjoy your time. Go buy Blood and Mud. Go buy my new book, Touch the Night. Go buy lots of books. Go pre-order Stand Alone by Paul Michael Anderson. Go buy a cake and eat it. You deserve it. Hell, why don't you go buy 2 cakes and eat it? Get diabetes. That would be spooky. And then you could come on the podcast and talk about spooky diabetes with me. Wouldn't that be fun? No, it would not be fun. Don't do that. Don't listen to me. I am not a doctor. I am nobody. I am Max, a host. And you are listening to Ghoulish. Well, as the kids say these days, Ghoulish. John, that's your name, right? John?
Yeah, it's still my name.
You haven't changed it to John without an H?
I actually changed it to Jonathan, but spelled Gohhhn, Athun.
I would fight you on the street if you told me that.
I actually, when I worked at Randall's, I actually spelled my name tag Jonathan with a G. My name's not Jonathan; it's just John. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
A lot of folks think my name is Maxwell or Maximilian, but nah, it's just Max. Why does it have to be long? That's what I tell my spouse all the time.
After reading Nightly Disease, it would have shocked me if your parents had done anything longer than Max.
Why?
They needed a short name. They could just Max.
Oh, I see. They used to call me Ditto as a kid.
Ditto?
Yeah, because my dad and I have the same name.
Ah.
Also,
right, well,
also at one point my name was Woogie, and no one knows why.
That's a good one. Fun story. If I'd been a girl, I would have been October Leaf.
I thought you were going to say October 11th.
Hey, I'm October the 11th. What? Why? I don't fucking know, man. I'm not my parents.
That's the day they fucked.
Had a big calendar, had a poster made. It was truly awful.
Oh, man. What are we talking about today? I'm so out of it.
Apparently my parents fucking.
Nice. You know what? This is all going in the podcast. Welcome back to welcome back to Ghoulish, John with a G. Or should I say October 11th?
Thanks for having me, Max.
Yeah, because that's my name. I am not named after a date. That would be odd.
to each their own. To each their terrible own.
So, I know you will coming on the podcast. I have no questions planned as usual. You seem to have a plan already in place for what you want to discuss. So, I think what we need to do is just let you go ahead and take over. And if I have questions, I will spring them on you.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I messaged you because I have a book coming out soon. I was like, hey, let me come back on your show and show my shit to everyone.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And kind of specifically said, like, let's talk about golems. Let's talk about Jewish, like, scary shit in Jewish mythology and culture, like Jewish horror. Let's do it.
Yeah. So when you tell me, so we're gonna learn some things about myself as we do this episode. Mainly that I'm pretty fucking ignorant about most things. So, beginning with golems, what comes to mind with me is some type of monster made out of mud, perhaps. And I don't know what happens beyond that.
No, that's fair. Look, you're already like ahead of the curve. But yeah, man. So the most famous golem story of all is one where a person, like a human, is made out of mud, and then it comes to life, and a lot of people think it like wrecks shop and kills a bunch of people and goes crazy. Never does that. What's fun about it is in the story, and in the most famous golem story, the Golem of Prague, the golem is essentially a dude. It is a artificially intelligent guy that's indistinguishable from any other dude on the street, except that he's like super strong because he's not actually human. He's made of mud, and we all know that mud is the strongest element there is.
Is he leaving muddy footprints whenever he
No,
walks? What?
no, he is not. He is not a Seawolf song.
The fuck you just say to me?
there's a it's not important, Max. It's beside the point.
Some type of anime thing that you just said to me?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, yeah, no. But what's funny about this thing to me is, like I said, like once the golem is made and made into a man, it's indistinguishable from a person, right? And in the Talmud, which is the big book of like Jewish rabbis arguing with other Jewish rabbis about what is and what isn't okay and what is law and how you should do shit, there's this whole section about golems. Specifically, they talk about, hey, we all know that we can make golems. We all know that you can make a chicken golem and then kill it and eat it, and that's fine.
We all know this.
Like, this is common fuck. Like, this is first grade. Okay, let's try to graduate here. The question is not whether any of this is possible. The question is, can you do it on the Sabbath? Is it kosher to do on the Sabbath?
Is it?
You know what? I don't know. I never got that far. I was like, my brain is too blown by the fact of like, look, hey, obviously we can make a chicken out of mud, bring it to life, kill it, and eat it. That's just common sense.
So does it taste like a chicken, or does it taste like mud?
Well, it's a fucking chicken at that point.
Wait a minute, can this chicken lay an egg?
You know what? They don't talk about the chicken's reproductive rights.
Dude, that's what came first. The fucking chicken golem.
Yeah, that's the good point. You don't have to have an egg to have a chicken golem. If the chicken golem can lay it, we have solved evolution. It's over. Science settled.
Walk me through the craft of making a chicken out of mud.
You got some shit to do after we record this.
I want some chickens.
So, this is okay. This is the true secret behind. Everyone thinks that Kentucky Fried Chicken has like mutant chickens that they use. No, they just crack them out of mud. So the way I keep going back to the story of the Golem of Prague because it's the most famous one. Although there are some other golem stories that'll freak you out, I promise. That golem was made by a guy named the Maharal, which is I can't remember what what they're called because I don't know words very good. Um, which essentially stands in Hebrew for our teacher, Rabbi Lowe.
Okay.
Rabbi Lowe was an actual person, really smart guy, really wise, really like saved the Jewish community in Prague during his life. Like actual fucking hero who has been catapulted into myth and legend as kind of this Wunder rabbi with magical powers, which happens a lot in Hasidism.
Okay, well, I'm with you. I'm with you. This is cool.
The Maharal went to bed and then dream walked to the river, like astral projected himself to the river to gather special mud and special gems that were just at the river, and then kind of constructed uh, through these muds and gems this magical man, which he then like because he's an old guy at this point had his son-in-law dance around while chanting special spells and brought this thing to life.
Now, I'm still maybe hung up on the logistics of this. Is he
Mm-hmm.
just taking a bunch of mud and basically like snowmanning a man?
Essentially, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm okay. So what happens?
No,
What happens then? Does he have like? Can he think like a human being? Does he have a
no. Okay,
soul? Okay.
so fun story. You're familiar with the whenever we have these conversations, I like take for granted you know stuff, and then you'll be like, "No, I have no fucking clue what you're talking about, John."
I didn't even
Have
know what
you?
a kaiju was last time we talked.
I know. Have you seen Fantasia, Max?
No.
Motherfucker. Okay, gather round, children. There's a scene where Mickey Mouse dons a wizard hat and brings a broom to life, and the broom follows an instruction and like goes through the steps of doing this thing over and over again, and like it becomes a problem. That happens in this original Golem story
Okay.
because this
I
this golem,
I have seen that
this
movie.
yeah, the Golem of Prague is an example of a narrow AI.
I'm with you. Keep going.
uh, Basically, he's given an instruction and he just keeps doing that instruction. In this case, he was supposed to like dump a bucket of water on the floor so it could be mopped. But he just follows that instruction over and over again because it's what he's been given. He's been programmed with it. And so he does this when the Maharal's wife tells him to, and doesn't stop until, like, as everyone's like screaming at him until the Maharal shows up. Is like, whoa, 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 what the fuck? No, this guy's to protect us. That's all. Don't use him for chores. He is here solely to protect us. There's a lot of different stories about how it goes from there. Generally speaking, uh, the golem like protects the Jewish people, stops them from getting beat up, stops them from getting hurt. Uh, he discovers plots of blood libel, which was really popular as a way to murder Jewish families back in those days, where uh, families would claim that their child that went missing was killed by Jews and its blood was used to make bread. Uh,
Is that how you make bread?
no,
Oh,
fun
okay.
story. Jews are super against putting blood in their body. Like, like it's super taboo in Jewish faith to do. However, I think the sourdoughs that are going around that aren't kosher are using blood.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've seen a
Yeah,
lot of bread baking photos lately, so
gotta be
yikes.
something, right?
Got to be
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So how do they go from this protective symbol to something violent and monstrous? Well, do they not? Am I just uh, imagining this?
It's because there are clear lines between the Golem story bringing this lifeless thing to life and Frankenstein
Right.
and Frankenstein's monster. In fact, there's a story where another Jewish scholar and hero, Maimonides, the Rambam is his nickname, uh, essentially started putting together a corpse, like putting parts of a corpse together, and to create a golem. And as it began to become alive, he was so freaked out by it, he destroyed it and went into seclusion for the rest of his life. Uh, so like, there's that, and then there's the legend about the rabbis who created Golem by writing the word truth on its head in Hebrew, and then it woke up and was like, "Fuck you guys, this is wrong. This is a crime. Erase this shit." Essentially, like it's more flowy in Hebrew, but that's what he said.
Yeah, fuck you guys.
Fuck you.
I mean,
Fuck
he
you
could have.
nerds.
I mean, he could have woke up with like a penis on his head.
Yeah,
Truth
true.
doesn't seem that bad in retrospect.
If he had known what the world was going to be like, he would have been like, you know what, truth is pretty good actually.
I gotta be
Down.
honest. If I woke up with truth on my head, I would go insane. I would like get convinced I killed somebody, and then I try to erase my memory.
But that's also like one of the funny things about this is like I mentioned the original Golem, narrow AI, right? Like you tell him to do thing, he does the thing. This Golem, like, is full, like he wakes up and he's fully realized as a intelligent like thing that can think and has its own will. More generalized AI.
Yeah.
So depending on the story, golems are wildly different. But generally speaking, you can kill them and eat them.
Do they have a
And that's
specific
fine.
way? Like, do they have a specific way you have to kill them?
Yeah, you have. I mean, you have to do kosher slaughter. You have to kill them the right way, just like any animal or person that you
Okay.
want to eat.
Which is?
Uh, I am not a kosher butcher, but you essentially have to make one clean cut across the carotid, I believe. Essentially, it has to, in theory, be painless. Not convinced it truly is, and they have to drain all the blood from the body because, like I said, Jews don't want any blood in them.
Now, can mud bleed?
Depends. There's some bloody mud in the book I came on to show, but no. Generally speaking, blood can't bleed. But once you bring it to life, it becomes a thing of flesh and blood and delicious, delicious meat.
I think this whole time I've been imagining a body made of mud. So once the creation is done, the mud just what evaporates.
It just takes form of like flesh, and it's just
Okay.
a regular ass animal.
This is wild, man. I wish I
I
I,
know.
I, I would mean. Have you ever tried to make one of these things?
Now, Max, I was under the impression you would do your best to make it look like I wasn't a crazy person. But I may have toyed around with some golem creation in my time.
If I was a golem, would I know?
You haven't realized it yet.
That's true. I do keep leaving around muddy footprints.
We just said you just fucking Seawolf song, so you don't think I'm insane.
What are you talking about? what is that?
It's a band called Seawolf, and they wrote a song about like someone's feet leaving muddy black dirt footprints because they're sad or some shit. I don't know.
Sounds exciting.
It's last time we talked about Linkin Park and Fred Durst, so I figured I should bring in something a little less new metally this time.
Fucking shit, man. If anyone was a golem, Fred Durst, am I right?
I would be very angry at the rabbi that created Fred Durst.
I would give that guy a high five. Like, you fucking maniac. How could you?
What? Why would you? Guy Fieri's definitely a golem, right?
I feel like it's probably a
Well,
good
like
guess.
think about the rabbi created Guy Fieri was like, look, you have to eat all the pork and bacon products in the world so it doesn't pollute any Jewish body. And he's like, okay, cool. Well, I'm on my way to Flavor Town. And he's just been devouring jalapeno popper since.
Now, what exactly is Flavortown? Is that also in the Jewish religion?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Flavor Town is a big part of the Jewish faith.
Yeah, I thought so. I haven't watched this show yet, but I assume it's really Jewish.
It's extremely Jewish. Guy Fieri is Orthodox, if you didn't know that.
I don't know anything
He
about
has
him.
frosted Jerry curls.
That's pretty cool, man. That's kind of muddy.
That's it's extremely gritty. This Jewish reboot of whatever Guy Fieri's fucking show is called is definitely gritty as hell.
Now, speaking of bands that no one should listen to, what do you think
Uh
about Puddle of Mud?
huh.
And why is it
So
spelled with two D's?
because they like double D breast, Max.
Nice. Hey, John. John.
Yeah,
Nice.
nice. I went to a Disturbed concert when I was a wee lad,
You okay?
and Puddle of Mud was supposed to play, but they threw a hissy fit about something and ended up not. It was I started out it was Disturbed, Puddle of Mud, Mudvayne,
My
and
God, it was a mud
Godsmack.
fest.
It was yeah, it was Mudfest. Shit, what 1992 maybe?
Oh my
No,
God.
God, 2000. It was Mudfest 2000.
Okay. That sounds like an event sponsored by Mountain Dew Red.
I don't think Mountain Dew Red existed at that time. I pray. Although I feel like most new metal could be explained by that much caffeine and red dye number 40.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what do you think of mud wrestling?
I am not the biggest. Okay, true story. I've done a few events with a another guy in the horror scene, and his events involve like a lot of scantily clad women doing blood wrestling. And I'm like, when I first did this event, I was like, man, this feels kind of gross. I'm not sure if I want to be a part of this. Hand to God, his events are the ones I do the best at. Because I think people buy the books to like cover their erections. Like at one of the events, I was right in front of a blood shower where women would go in bikinis and like
What?
shower themselves in fake blood, and guys, people kept walking up to our booth, and I'd like start talking about books, and I realized they were just staring at the half naked women behind me, but then they would buy a book.
Maybe they thought it was like tipping.
You know what? I'm fine with it. Like whatever it takes.
Wow, I need to go to the places you go to. I don't sell anything.
Oh shit! The guy is a really good guy. His events are a lot of fun. So I'm not going to talk it too much shit, but yeah, I really do the best sales I do at these crazy blood wrestling events.
It just seems like a pain in the ass to wrestle in mud. I don't
Well,
know.
I don't have to do it. I'm selling like I'm not naked
You should
usually.
have to. If you It should be like if you've never wrestled in mud on day one, you have to wrestle in mud.
The first rule of Wrestle in Mud Club is this is your first night. You must wrestle in mud.
Yeah, and second rule is buy a book to hide that throbbing erection.
Third rule is show off your throbbing erection. Be proud. You don't need to be shy.
That contradicts rule two. Did you enjoy how I said contradicts when we were talking about erections? Pretty cool, huh?
I did. I feel it swells the conversation and lifts it to a new level.
Now, I'm trying to rack my brain on this. I am almost positive I've seen spooky movies that have featured golems, but nothing is coming to mind. Do you have any good examples?
There's the movie Golem.
Oh,
So like there's one. There's been a few. They're few and far between. Jewish lore in general is this thing that we kind of have to be careful about when we write it, because people are both very familiar with it and very not familiar with it. Um, Meaning, like, there's a shit ton in Jewish lore and mythology and horror that if I talk about, you'll be like, yeah, I fucking know all this stuff because I've seen it a million times. But when you put a Jewish lens on it, it warps into this weird shit you've never considered. And uh, so, like, it's this thing that exists and doesn't exist at the same time, which can be really frustrating for people like me that kind of thrive in it.
That does sound frustrating. Can you expand on that at all? Like, what are some things you would like to write, but you've held off on?
I haven't held off on much. It's just hard to get published. So this book that's coming out, Blood and Mud, it features a golem. It features Satan. It features all these archangels and all this stuff that people are fairly familiar with. But for instance, in Jewish mythology, Satan isn't an evil figure. So even though I have this character as kind of the antagonist, it's done in a very different way that doesn't kind of play into that, like this is the father of evil or the kicked out angel or this or that. And the setup of like hierarchy and the way mysticism works is somewhat different than kind of mainstream I don't know if I'd say theological literature, but outside the mainstream like Christian stuff we're used to. So I wrote this book specifically the way I did in hopes that it would kind of bridge those gaps and get people used to the idea of Jewish horror and Jewish literature, or Jewish speculative fiction, I should say.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great goal. It's called Blood and Mud, right?
yes, Blood and Mud.
Can you give me a good breakdown of what it's about and like what the audience
Yeah.
can expect?
So the basic idea is that in the world there are 10 super cool dudes, just super good people that like they're so good that the entire world rests on their shoulders. Like the world is allowed to keep going because these 10 dudes exist, or dudettes. They're not gender specific. Um, in the story, one of them is killed, and this sends the figure of Satan kind of off the deep end, and he summons a kaiju-sized golem to
Hell
punish
yes.
humanity.
Yes.
And so it is a Jewish kaiju horror novel in which a Jewish militaryman, National Guard guy, goes up against the devil, and Satan has to deal with this and his various angel brothers and sisters while commanding a kaiju to destroy Chicago.
That sounds fantastic. When is this coming out, and how can people find it?
So it's coming out from St. Rooster Books on the 22nd. We actually just delayed it. It was going to come out on the 15th, but we decided that with all the shit going on in the world right now, we would put it off a little bit, even though it's very topical because a lot of white supremacists die in this book.
Nice. You should have led with that.
Yeah, that's like, look, hey, look, if it's a book I've written, a lot of white supremacists die in it. It's my signature. We decided to kind of let things calm down a little, and then we're going to release on the 22nd. It's going to be available on Amazon, and then shortly after that, it will also be available on my website, kaijupoet.com, where I'll be selling signed copies.
Badass. And how can people find you online? You just said the website you have, but what about social media?
Yeah, look, if you want to find me, it's Kaiju Poet. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and my website is all Kaiju Poet. I made it very simple to do.
Are you on Twitch?
You know, I am on Twitch, but I don't do anything on there, so please don't follow me. Instead, follow Games Done Quick, because they do badass charity events, and you can donate to some pretty cool charities through them while watching cool shit.
On Twitch?
Yeah, on Twitch.
Yeah, you know,
Games Done Quick.
I meant to ask you if you were on TikTok, but I said Twitch by mistake.
I am on TikTok, but that is a private account that isn't for everybody.
It's mostly just mud wrestling videos.
It's mostly just blood and mud wrestling.
Nice. Well, I hope you sell this book at the next blood fight that you go to.
Yeah, the next Blood Sports.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
All right. Well, this has been fun. I've discovered some things I did not know. Did you have any little golem facts you want to drop before we end this?
Shit. Only that. No, fuck it. Golems are rad. Like, do some research. Buy my book. Look. At the end of Blood and Mud, I have a 4,000-word essay on radical Jewish mythology. And there's a whole section of golems in it.
Okay. Do you want to read it?
Buy the fucking book.
Do you want to read it right now?
No, I don't.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's the episode. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to Ghoulish. If you liked today's episode, why don't you go and rate and review us on iTunes. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/PMM Publishing. My new novel, Touch the Night, is out right now, so if you like books about small towns and corrupt police and spooky demon shit, well, you better go get that book. Also go pick up The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson.